What if I told you that one of the greatest philosophers of all time predicted the downfall of modern society, declared God dead, and lived in a near total isolation before dying unrecognized? The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844 in a German village called Rücken to Franziska and Karl Ludwig Nietzsche. Nietzsche's dad was a Lutheran pastor and former teacher, and according to Friedrich's own journals, also a great father. Unfortunately, he passed away very early due to the severe encephalitis, which Nietzsche feared also to experience at some point of his life. Young Friedrich loved and respected his father, but he also had his own unconventional views and opinions which later provided the foundation of his provocative philosophy. There is actually a really amusing letter from Nietzsche's father to his friend Emil Schenk, where he describes his little son as follows. Brother Fritz is a wild boy who can sometimes be controlled only by his papa, inasmuch as the rod is never far from him. But now someone else helps more powerfully, and that is the dear Holy Christ, who has already taken hold of even little Fritz by head and heart. So that he wants to hear and speak of nothing but the Holy Ghost. It's something very sweet. Oh dear Karl, if you only knew. Shortly after the death of Friedrich's father, his little brother also died at the age of just 2 years old. The family then moved to Naumburg, where they lived with Nietzsche's grandmother and his father's 2 unmarried sisters. From an early age, Nietzsche loved to read, write, and compose. These interests also formed his philosophy, of which he himself claimed to be shaped by art, science, and music. Being only 24 years old, Nietzsche received an offer to become a professor of classical philology at the University of Basel in Switzerland. However, his health quickly deteriorated, forcing him to retire in his 30s. During his isolation, Nietzsche produced his most influential works, including Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Beyond Good and Evil, and The Genealogy of Morality. Many of Nietzsche's ideas, especially his critique of morality and mass culture, feel almost suspiciously relevant today. Some actually argue that he predicted the downfall of modern society. His philosophy, centered on the will to power, the death of God, and the Übermensch, are all tightly bound to his severe illness and rooted in his rebellious spirit. Speaking of rebellious spirit, I can't help myself but to bring this up. The more I read about Nietzsche, the more I realize how much in common he has with the YouTube celebrity and kickbox champion Andrew Tate. It might seem like a wild comparison, but their universal disrespect to any authority, shrewdness, discipline, addiction to and valuation of suffering, and last but not least, their in-your-face, brutally honest style of communication make them so similar. Now, I'm definitely not saying that their merit to the world is the same, but their attitude towards life does overlap pretty significantly. I actually dabble with the thought of making a whole separate video on this topic, so let me know in the comments whether you are interested or not. The end of Nietzsche's life was bitter as nihilism itself. In 1889, Nietzsche suffered a mental collapse, reportedly embracing a horse in the streets of Turin. He spent his final years in vegetative state under the care of his sister, who distorted his work for her own ideological purposes. Well, luckily, just some of it. He died in 1900, largely unrecognized. But such is the fate of most great thinkers. Their ideas are too ahead of time, too controversial, and too young. They need time to ripen and find their way into the world. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, feel free to like and subscribe for more of Nietzsche's wisdom. Thanks again, and see you soon, fellow thinker.